Oh, we're so glad that you're tuning in to the Known Partners webinar. I'm very excited to welcome an extraordinary guest today. Julie Bassett has an incredible history in the HR world. Not only is she a certified HR professional, but she served in every sector. And I love that she gets to today, she stewards really just designing and serving and leading at one of the incredible churches in our country that was really impacting the world in New York City, Redeemer Presbyterian Church, and its networks and organizations that they obviously operate out of that. And so, Julie, thank you for saying yes to just sharing your wisdom and what you've learned, but also the things that you're processing through today. We've asked you to really help us think through wisely. How do you take benefits? Sometimes that's an afterthought when it comes to compensation packages, but really, when you start taking your employees and go, how do we create an environment that supports, that attracts and retains, but also allows great employees to develop? In a time where we're always going, how do we steward and maximize every dollar? Because we'd love to give our team members everything, but we also know there's a bottom line that we have to manage in all of that. And you've lived in that tension, you've advised, you've coached, and so you are truly an expert in just kind of that tension of designing benefit plans really from a purpose value driven standpoint to create a flourishing culture. So thank you for jumping on and saying yes to sharing your wisdom with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brad, for the wonderful introduction and for just inviting me to be part of this. That is hopefully going to be so helpful for all of your clients around the country today. I'm really excited to share about what it means to develop a purpose-driven benefits package and strategy. And so we'll go ahead and get started, jump right in. So why do we want to have a purpose-driven benefit strategy? Well, as faith-based organizations, we care about the whole person because we know that there is such a deep interconnectedness of physical, mental, financial, and spiritual health. And purpose-driven benefits are really simply benefits that are put into place that can be offered that address the needs of employees and their families in every area of their lives. And providing a purpose-driven benefits package is also a reflection of the mission and values of faith-based organizations. They're one way that you can demonstrate that alignment between the values that you communicate and the well-being that you provide for employees. And so the importance of aligned benefits, the benefits that you offer play a really important role in shaping your culture because they're, again, an opportunity to reflect and reinforce the things that we say we value as an organization. And purpose-driven benefits also create a cohesiveness across the strategies that you put in place for employees to activate and the way that the employees are receiving and experiencing the benefits that the organization provides through the benefit strategy. It is likely, as faith-based organizations, you have at least one of your stated values related to the care and well-being of your staff. And so I really encourage you to think about it, not just how can we care well for our staff, or how can we make sure that our staff members are healthy, but really to think about it in terms of what can we offer our employees to help them and their families flourish. The idea of flourishing has much broader implications, and it can help us think really creatively about benefit offerings that we put into place and provide for employees. And so including benefits that reflect certain values, for example, like Christian counseling, is another way to align your benefits package with those organizational values. And I also really, really love to think about it in terms of this. Thinking about how generous can we be in our benefits offering such that it is a model of generosity for our employees. I really encourage you to think about that as well. There are foundational benefits that are would be considered more traditional. And so those traditional benefits are things like medical and dental, vision insurance, with medical being at the top of the list in value and importance to your employees. Another traditional benefit is something like a 401k or a 403b, some type of retirement vehicle. And with those, with a traditional or a Roth 403b, 401k, you can, as an employer, either provide no match, you can match an employee's contribution to a certain percent, or you can do something called a core contribution, which is generally done as a percentage of annual salary. And then, as I mentioned, you can also offer not just a traditional 401k or 403b, but you can offer a Roth option as well. So providing that flexibility in retirement options. Basic life and accidental death and dismemberment, generally those are a combined policy, or oftentimes they can be. That's another traditional benefit offering. And in addition to the employer providing that, there's also an option to give employees voluntary opportunity to elect additional life insurance for themselves, their spouse, and any children if they choose to do that. Another traditional benefit is short-term and long-term disability. Both of those provide some wage replacement in the event of an accident, illness, injury, and then finally, paid time off benefits like your vacation, your personal days, and your sick days. Those are all, again, traditional benefits. One thing to note is that on sick days, many states do have requirements and guidelines for the number of sick days that you must provide. So just want to encourage you to make sure that you're remaining compliant in those. Again, these are all your very foundational, traditional benefits that have almost come to be an expectation, and in some cases non-negotiables, particularly for your full-time staff members. And again, just to keep in mind, those benefits, even those foundational benefits, are a reflection of your culture. And so you can think about it in terms of what we offer as a medical plan demonstrates our care for employees and their families. And what we offer as a retirement option demonstrates our value of good financial stewardship to our employees. And then also what we offer in terms of paid time off and vacation time, sabbaticals, things like that, is a reflection of our value for Sabbath and rest for your employees. So everything has a connection and can be connected to the values of your organization. Now, let's talk about differentiators. So these are really where you can get creative and offer some non-traditional things that may be very important to your employees. They are different differentiators because they're less commonly offered and less commonly expected, but they can have pretty significant value for your employees. Things like health savings accounts, HSAs, as they're called, have triple tax advantage. And they act as another investment vehicle on top of or in conjunction with your 403b or 401k that you offer. And similar to a retirement account, employers can make contributions to a health savings account as well. And that's particularly helpful if your employees are on a high deductible health plan. That HSA that you are contributing to and that you're giving employees the opportunity to contribute to can help defray some of those out-of-pocket costs. Another non-traditional benefit is something called a health reimbursement arrangement. And an HRA is an employer-owned and funded account or plan. It's used actually to reimburse an employee's out-of-pocket expenses like their co-insurance, co-pay, deductibles. And it's really helpful to help employees cover it where plans maybe have a high out-of-pocket maximum. A health reimbursement arrangement can kick in at a certain predetermined level by the organization, and help employees pay those last dollars of their high deductible health plans. Another non-traditional or differentiating benefit is flexible work schedules. I'll share in a moment how important that is, according to some national studies that have been done. But flexible work schedules is one. And then another one that has become increasingly important is our mental health benefits. Most all health plans are required to provide some level of mental health care. But this would be something that is even broader, even greater, to give employees more accessibility to mental health services and behavioral health services, and potentially at a lowered cost. So, for example, partnering with a Christian counseling organization in your local community might be a way to extend that kind of benefit to create greater accessibility for your employees. And then another differentiator, things like wellness benefits. We don't often think about all of the options that are available there. So things like gym memberships. If you've got a local gym, you could arrange for perhaps a special fee arrangement or a reimbursement arrangement to employees who take advantage of those benefits and that facility on a regular basis. Things like City Bike, for those of you who may be in an more of an urban or city setting, if you have a City Bike type of program in your community and employees prefer to travel that way or commute that way, that's another great benefit that you can provide. And then there are opportunities for all kinds of incentives. So you could create fitness challenges, wellness challenges, financial incentives that you provide employees who are having those preventive care checks done on a regular basis, and any other healthy behaviors that you could identify. You can provide incentive for those healthy behaviors. Another differentiator is dependent care and elder care benefit. That is tax-deferred money that an employee can contribute toward a fund that covers either dependent care or elder care. Think about it this way: your youngest employees are likely starting families, and they will be interested at some point in having dependent care. And then the most senior of your generations of your workforce are concerned about aging parents, and many of them are taking care of aging parents. And so those two benefits are great touch points specifically for those two generations of your workforce. And then things like study leave, oftentimes particularly in a church setting, that may be an option for a senior pastor, but extending those benefits to other pastors, to senior leaders in the organization, may be a way that you can get creative. And also the same for sabbaticals. Oftentimes it's senior pastors or pastoral staff that are eligible for that sabbatical, but there may be people who are non-pastoral roles who've been in your ministry and your organization for years and years and years. And sometimes giving them a break too, again, just communicates that value of rest and refreshment for your employees. This list could really continue on and on. So many different options, but really the important thing to understand is that it's really all about understanding what's important to your employees, your workforce, your team members. And so I wanted to just share some statistics. There's been a number of very recent, really great national studies that have been done. One of those is by the Society for Human Resources Management, and they released a 2024 annual employee benefits survey. They really are just looking at what are the most highly valued benefits that are provided and that people really want in the workforce. 88%, this is not a shocker, 88% of people said healthcare, please. So that is really a key benefit that's important. Here is one that's a little surprising. 70% of the respondents said flexible work with a preference for hybrid hours is pretty important to them. So thinking about flexible work, it's one of those things that as long as you can maintain the productivity, there's no cost. So being able to think creatively about how you can incorporate some of those high value, low cost, low resource consumption types of benefits into your plans is a great thing. 67% of the respondents indicated family care was very important. 65% indicated things related to professional development are also extremely important. Personal development, however, also is important. It includes just learning outside of the professional environment, and even in some cases for organizations, faith-based organizations and nonprofits, spiritual formation. So just keeping in mind that's, again, a component of the whole person. And if we can provide some professional or personal development opportunities around a person's spiritual formation, that is just building into them in even greater ways. And then, of course, mental health support remains an important factor. Post-pandemic, there is an increasing demand still for mental health resources. And it's really elevated by the severe gaps that we're experiencing in both accessibility, because there's fewer and fewer counselors, and then also affordability. So whether or not it's covered, it may be covered at a lower rate. And so both accessibility and affordability are important as it relates to mental health care. And then we're thinking about, we want to also think about what are the various generations within our workforce, really thinking about their retirement. And wherever they are, whatever generation they are, there are some truths that they're thinking about, that healthcare costs are continuing to increase, that people are just living longer lives, and that long-term care and assisted living are getting more expensive. And so all of those factors combined together can be discouraging. And while we should see retirement as something that we can really look forward to, there are more and more of these types of mounting concerns and costs that prohibit us, in many cases, from really being able to think joyfully about retirement instead of worrying about what is really going to be possible. And so I also wanted to share with you a study that was done by Goldman Sachs over the summer. They did a study called The Generational Divide in Retirement Savings. And they really were able to pinpoint what each generation needs and wants in terms of retirement help. Gen Z, which are those born between 1997 and 2012, they represent the part of your workforce that unfortunately has the lowest financial literacy. And so they really want help with things like emergency savings. Most of them don't even have that. Emergency savings, professional financial planning, and actually having a retirement strategy. And then millennials, who were born in 1981 to 96, they are actually the ones who are most on track for their retirement savings. However, combined with that, they're also the most likely to be buying homes, putting children through college, having aging parents that they're having to care for. And so they have all these competing financial demands, and that's something that they need guidance with about how to navigate those competing demands. And then Gen X, those who are born between 1965 and 1980, half of this generation believes that they are behind, way behind in retirement planning. And actually only 55% of them do have a personalized retirement strategy. And so what they want most is professional financial services. And oftentimes you can source that for them directly through the provider of your 401k or 403b, and many times at no cost to you or the employee. So that's what they're looking for. We either generally, as we're looking at these mounting concerns, we see our options as I've got to save more, or I've got to work longer, or I've got to cut back on my expenses. And so we want to think about how can we create financial education, potentially make contributions toward an employee's retirement plan in a meaningful, significant way? And how can we provide professional guidance to help them feel more secure so that as they see these mounting financial concerns, they know they have a plan to sort of overcome some of those concerns. Lots of external data from studies, but the most important thing is to know specifically from your team what they value. And so I highly recommend that you conduct surveys with your team to find out what's important to them. Where are your benefit dollars being spent in a way that aligns with what they value and need? Think also about the diversity on your staff, from age to family situations, life stages. Those are important things to think about. Making sure that the benefits that you offer, there's something for every age and life stage employee in your organization. And then also considering employees' work status, whether they're full-time or part-time. Those you can make different benefits eligibility decisions and factors around different benefits based on those different employment statuses. So that just gives you a little bit more flexibility. And then you want to offer, choices, but not so many that overwhelm the team. You want to make sure, again, that you are meeting their needs, but not giving them so many options that it just becomes confusing. And then some very practical steps for customization, both for you and the employee, are to put together some pick and choose packages, some tiered offerings based on either employment status or their role or their tenure. You've got some flexibility around how you make those eligibility statuses, how you define that. And then again, just that full-time, part-time status distinction, you can offer different things based on that. So that's really the best way to make sure that your budget dollars that you have set aside are actually meeting the needs of the employees as they have expressed them to you, and that will really make the most difference for them. Let's talk a little bit about regulation and compliance. There's not a lot to share here. I'm not an attorney, but I do know enough to just say, beware that there are some federal regulations, particularly the Affordable Care Act, and then in regard to a retirement planning package, the ERISA, which is Employee Retirement Income Security Act. Those are two regulations that you want to make sure that you're working with a broker who really understands which of the regulations, either holistically or parts of each regulation, faith-based organizations are and are not subject to. There may be some things that you're exempt from, but you want to make sure you're working with a broker who really understands that. Of course, the less subject to some of these you are, the more creative it will allow you to get while still providing a very generous and fair and helpful benefits offering. And then again, understanding where you have that flexibility can just help you get really creative in establishing those eligibility requirements and any cost sharing decisions that you may want to make around whether the employee is going to contribute to any of the premium costs for those benefits as well. So at the end of the day, again, just making sure that you're working with a broker who knows those regulations is super, super important. And then really designing purpose-driven benefits with faith and mission. As Brad indicated earlier, not only attracts and retains employees, but it actually does give them an opportunity to contribute their very best work, and at the same time also flourish in their lives and with their families. And ideally, that's what we want for them. And so I have attempted to boil the ocean for you, and giving you a simple framework to think through about how to make those benefits decisions. And we'll make sure to include this in the information that you receive back after the webinar. So the first part of that framework is really mission and vision alignment. Your big question here is, how do the benefits being considered align with our faith-based mission and vision and our core values? And then secondly, it's really about employee needs. And so your big question there is, how do these benefits considered that we're considering help us to meet the needs of our employees and their families? Third is a cost benefit analysis. So which benefits are providing the greatest value with the least resource consumption at the least cost for us? Fourth is out of the box thinking. Where can we get creative? What other creative ways can we meet the needs of our employees? And maybe it's not even a plan through your broker. Again, it could be something that you just create in-house. And then sustainability. Are the benefits that you offer today sustainable going into the future? There is nothing more challenging than providing a benefit and then having to pull it if it's not sustainable going forward. So just make sure that the benefits that you're considering are at a cost that is sustainable going into the future so that you can continue that. And your actionable steps after you've sort of gone through that framework, that internal assessment for your employees, super, super important to know what matters most to them. And then working with that broker that understands church and faith-based organizations and all of those regulations, what may or may not apply. And then finally, something that we found really valuable is working with your carriers to have them create what's called utilization reports. So every carrier, for any benefit that you provide, should be able to provide you a utilization report. And that's really key in understanding, based on what you're spending on that benefit, how much is it actually being used? That will help indicate the value of that to employees. And so those utilization reports can be key because they can help you make decisions about where you need to make adjustments, either in the benefit itself or how you communicate that benefit to your employees.
Julie, thank you so much for just walking through a master's course in about 15, 20 minutes or so on just your wisdom over the years. Just as you were walking through that, a couple of questions came to mind, and there may not be exact answers to these. So feel free to go, Brad. That's really specific to the organization. But I'm curious, just are there best practices of either percentage of compensation or numbers that we should look at to go, okay, we want to be the best, but what you've seen as organizations that do this really well, they're usually spending X amount percentage of a total compensation plan on benefit packages?
That is a great question. And I would say it really does vary based on the size of the organization and the number of employees. Those factors determine what you sometimes have access to. But I would say in general, somewhere between 28 and 40% of an employee's compensation, total compensation, generally 28 to 40% is a good range to be in, such that it is incredibly competitive.
That's typically where we advise as well, is right there that range, because it is so contextual to the size and the maturity of the organization and context to that. I'm curious, as you've unveiled benefits in the past and even recently, is there something that you find outside of maybe medical that's pretty standard that gets people more excited than the other, or something that people should consider as going, hey, if you look at a non-traditional benefit, this is Julie's favorite right now to provide for team members, and you go, it could change next week, but right now this is your favorite, and you go, this one is, I think, makes a lot of impact today.
Yeah, I actually have two answers to that, if that's okay. The first one is something that I've personally experienced, and I've had so many employees reach out to me and say what a great experience it was. your basic medical plan is going to generally have some kind of telehealth or telemedicine option to it. Um, and those are great. It often requires the employee to still pay the copay, or their coinsurance, meet a deductible. There are plans out there. We have one of those through an organization it's a telehealth membership. We pay the full cost of that membership. It's not a lot. It's an annual membership fee for every employee. And it doesn't go in through insurance because it is a membership program, but it is a fantastic way to help employees stretch those medical dollars or their HSA dollars if they have that. The is a supplemental telehealth option. So that's one that is a favorite right now. And I think the other would be for us, we found that generally your employee assistance programs, which are through, various providers, if they have a counseling benefit as a component of that employee assistance program, it's generally limited to probably no more than 6 or 8 sessions at the most for employees. And as we know, doing what we do sometimes, that really is only scratching the surface of what you can address in a counseling session engagement. And so we pulled together 3 amazing Christian counseling organizations. And we said, we want to build something in-house that gives employees greater accessibility. So we provide up to 12 sessions every year. They have to go through one of these Christian counseling organizations, but we've negotiated special rates and also special billing arrangements for that. And we have a number of employees who are taking advantage of that.
That's extraordinary. Well, Julie, thank you for letting us just get some. I feel like we just got some of Julie's secrets right there, some of the secret sauce to things you're currently working on. But one of the reasons we exist is really to help what we say the capital C church, so the business sector, the nonprofit, and the church, to steward what we think are its greatest resources. And really, we talk about contextual strategy, cash, our money. Those are the things that we typically think about. But really, when you start to look at people are the glue that make all that actually come to life. And really, we were chatting away on before we jumped on of just going, what's it look like to embody not just an organization that has good values, but those values are actually displayed in every aspect of how we hire talent, how we treat our employees, but really, how do we not just employ people in a transaction standpoint, but see that as a mutual benefit and development of, as an organization is serving what we hope is God's kingdom in some way, seeking the good of their city, whether that's a frontline worker, it's a pastor, it's a nonprofit leader, that they also get that reciprocal impact from their employer. And so if we can help, if no partners can help, we can do everything from the brokerage side of that for you, just to be a thought partner from the HR side. So please feel free to chat with us after the Zoom call, after the webinar, and be more than happy to help you just think through some potential ways to do that specifically in your context, as Julie said, that are compliant with your state laws and all of your regulations, to really see your values driven through your benefits. So, but thanks again for joining us today. Julie, once again, thank you for serving the church so well, but also for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.